Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is the Otherppl podcast. I'm Brad Listi and I'm in Los Angeles. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Today is Friday, so it is time for another flashback episode where I dig into the archives and share an outtake from an episode out of the past. Today we're going to be revisiting episode 659, my conversation with author Jean Kyoung Frazier. Her debut novel is called Pizza Girl. It was published back in 2020 by Doubleday. Episode 659 aired on July 22nd, 2020. A reminder that the full episode 659, is available in the feed, as are all episodes of this show. So if you like what you hear in this flashback and you want to go in for the full conversation, you can do that. Just look for episode 659 wherever you get your podcasts. A quick reminder that I do a weekly email newsletter. You can subscribe for free over at bradlisti.substack.com. And if you like the work that I do, if you enjoy this show on a regular basis and you want to join the Otherppl Patreon community, you can do that at patreon.com/otherpplpod. I would love it if you did. All right, so here we go with today's flashback from episode 659. Here I am in conversation with Jean Kyoung Frazier, and once again, her debut novel is called Pizza Girl.
I loved those Matt Christopher books when I was a kid. I don't know if you ever read those pulpy books with titles like The Kid Who Only Hit Homers or The Guy with the Submarine Pitch. Anyway, but yeah, it just sort of seemed like, for lack of a better word, a really good vehicle to tell a story with, you know.
What, basketball or pizza?
The pizza delivery. Yeah, pizza delivery. And so then just basically everything I was kind of thinking about, you know, like young parenthood, sexual fluidity, Americanization, it all kind of found a way into this story, and I just started expanding it, and then I had a novel eventually.
So what was the factor that caused you to write this book instead of the basketball book?
God, that's a good question. I don't know exactly. It's like I think a lot about writing books at the times that we need them. The basketball idea was fun, and it definitely had some good lines and everything, but there wasn't a lot of emotional drive there, where with the pizza novel, I had just moved to New York City, and I was bartending a lot, and I was thinking a lot about the unknowability of people, just like the weirdness of like meeting people and being your best version of yourself for a couple minutes at a time. There was this one couple that I really liked, and till one day I was working under the bar, I was crouching down cleaning, and I heard her ask him, "Where does your wife think you are right now?" And it just really hurt my heart a little bit. But it's like that kind of thing of like, well, I don't know them. Why should that hurt me?
Because they're like fictional characters for you. You need them to perform a certain role.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's just something weird about service jobs like that in general. It's like everyone kind of performing and kind of like we're being the people that we all need. You know, like everyone likes the friendly bartender. Everyone likes to joke around and have a quote unquote like fun moment with their pizza guy or girl, you know?
Well, I think for some people too, you know, there's so much loneliness in our culture.
Yeah.
That the interactions we have with service industry professionals might be they might be some of the only meaningful interactions we have at all.
Right.
And I should say too, because there is, I think, especially, and I'm sure you probably dealt with this, being a female pizza delivery person,
right,
that, you know, these jobs can become sexualized.
Oh yeah, totally.
You might get people hitting on you. I mean, that even happened to me like once or twice, but I can recall, because I was shy as a young single guy in my 20s, right, I would always like develop crushes on like waitresses and bartenders, and like just because I was so bad at approaching people. I was just like, okay, well, this person I can like sort of talk to, right, you know, and like,
we call it a crushtomer. A crushtomer.
Is that what it's called? Okay, yeah. I was a crushtomer, and I hope that it wasn't creepy. I was just, you know, I think people just are awkward sometimes. Totally.
I remember this was at the last bar I was at. I was towards the end of my shift, and this guy came up to me, and he said, I feel like we have a really good connection. I don't know. I was thinking maybe we should go on a date one of these days. And I felt so awful, but I was just like, and I didn't know how I was going to go to, because you never know how it's going to go when you turn someone down, especially a strange man you don't know. And I was like, I don't really feel that way about you. And he was really cool about it. He's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I hope I can still come in here. And I was like, yeah, of course. And that was that. And it was a completely nice interaction, so that can happen sometimes too. It's just, again, furthering that point of like, it's so hard sometimes to feel like you can put yourself out there. It makes sense when it's someone you see all the time, like I had become a figure to him almost.
Okay. So did that guy come back to the bar or come back?
He did. Yeah. It was completely normal. He was just a normal guy,
Wow. Okay. Well, that's like the most civil thing ever.
Yeah. It was very civil. That's the thing. I felt the hair on my neck prickle, because it's never, it can go much worse than that, but that was a really nice one. That was a really nice one.
Have you had situations where it's gone south?
More that it's like people can be like pushy, being like, no, just like come out with me once, or like, have a drink with me just this one time. I've been lucky though. I've been able to get out of it. I definitely know that there are situations for people that don't go well, but I've been lucky in that way.
So I want to talk to you as well about some advice that I think you were doing an interview that I was reading, and the interviewer was asking you for your thoughts on like advice you would give to a young writer. And I'm paraphrasing, but I remember you saying basically that your advice to young writers was to just not give a fuck, or to give like less fucks as you're writing. And I think to somebody maybe listening at first blush, that might sound a little crude or something, but I got to say, when I was reading it, it totally resonated with me. And it might be because I'm in the midst of writing a book that I give like a lot of fucks about. And I think that can like muck up the works. Like, do you know what I'm saying? I think there's like real wisdom in what you were saying is what I'm trying to tell you. Right. So can you elaborate on don't give a fuck?
Oh, it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's like I try to, like, I give that advice, and I'm like you. It's really hard for me to take it sometimes, because it's like, everything I write, I'm always thinking, I'm like, oh man, I hope this isn't dumb. Oh man, I hope someone reads this and feels this and like believes it. Like they believe that I believed it and everything too. So it's like my advice was almost just like, don't worry so much if you're giving a lot of fucks, because ultimately it's coming from a really good place. You're caring about your words and their effect on other people. But it will be better for your sanity for sure if you can just sort of like go with the flow and just kind of focus on yourself. Like I actually don't share my writing with anyone until I'm done. I don't really do writing groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't either. Like do you have like first readers or anything like that before you go to like your agent or your editor?
I'm trying to do that this time around. I'm trying to do a lot of things different this time around just to like feel better and everything. But no, funny enough with Pizza Girl, I wrote it all. I finished it at like 3 a.m. one day, and I was so excited. I like poured myself a little glass of this Johnny Walker Blue. I was so tired though, I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next morning, there was like a dead fly in the glass, and I was like, "Ooh, bad omen."
That's a good omen.
You think it's a good omen? Well, it ended up working out, because just later that day, I just looked up some agents that repped people I liked and sent out a few emails, and the first one actually ended up being my agent.
Well, see, there you go. It was a good omen.
Yeah, apparently.
I feel like when anything like that happens, like it's just best to just default to it's a good omen. Like,
Yeah, make it positive and whatnot. I think it's sort of that thing too. It's like looking back, I'm like, that is insane that I did that. But there's like a part of me, and it's sort of tied to the like don't give a fuck mentality of like, I talk myself out of things all the time. And maybe if I had talked myself out of that, I obviously would have still written Pizza Girl, and I have to believe it still would have been published, but there was something maybe about the urgency of it that would have been lost if I tinkered with it too much.
How long did it take you to write?
The actual writing, a little less than a year, but I had the idea. I had the first line. Her name was Jenny Hauser, and every Wednesday I put pickles on her pizza for about 2.5, 3 years.
Interesting. That's the first thing that came to you, was that line?
Yeah, because I was thinking, I'm a big line gal, and I love a good banger of a first line. And I was just thinking, I was like, okay, what's the story about? I was like, it's definitely a delivery driver falling into obsession with a customer And I was like, all right, I'm just going to basically say it from the beginning. Her name, and then something like kind of like weird, a little sexual, definitely intriguing, like pickles on her pizza. What the hell is that? So I just wanted a grabby line, and it ended up staying the first line.
Have you ever had pickles on a pizza?
I have, actually. In South Dakota, I have family in North Dakota and Minnesota area, and I was just driving a little bit, and I stopped at this hole in the wall, and they had it on the menu, and it was actually pretty good. I was surprised. I don't know why more places don't do it.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, I don't think you should ever put fruit on a pizza. I'm not a pineapple person.
I am very anti-pineapple. I had an ex that did pineapple pizza exclusively, and I'm convinced that's why ultimately we were never going to work.
Yeah, no, it's just that's morally wrong. But I think that you can put almost anything on a pizza. Like the basic technology of pizza, like dough, tomato sauce, cheese. It's hard to fuck it up. Just about anything on top of that is going to be fine.
Yeah, the funniest is that I've been getting so many questions, especially from New Yorkers, like, tell me your favorite place to get a slice, this, that. And I was like, I am trash. I would order Domino's sometimes in this city. Or, I love Little Caesars. All pizza is pretty good to me.
I wish I could eat dairy, but
Are you lactose intolerant?
I wasn't until I became a vegan, and then it screwed up my whole system. So, but I will still to this day, I'll just take a piece of pizza and just rip the cheese off. I'm not that elegant about any of it, but I like Tombstone pizza, like the frozen pizza that I grew up on that. I think that stuff's good too, right? Or DiGiorno.
Oh, love that guy.
He's a hero. So where are you from? You said you just mentioned what is it, South Dakota and Minnesota?
Yeah, split time between there and the LA area.
Where in Minnesota?
Funny enough, Pelican Rapids. It's an hour out of Fargo, North Dakota. Yeah, so it's right on the border there. My
wife is from Minneapolis.
Oh, very cool.
So cool. I've spent some time up there. But then you came out to LA.
Yes. Yeah, I currently live in the Chinatown Echo Park area.
Oh, you do? Okay, so you left New York.
I did. I miss it, but it felt like time to come back and sort of I've never lived in LA as a normal adult, if that makes sense. And I just kind of wanted to see how that would look.
How's it looking?
Not too bad. I mean, I know this is such a strange, uncertain time, but I've been trying to be positive about it. And, I'm luckier than most in that I have my health and all my loved ones have their health. So yeah, I've been trying to just be as productive and unproductive as I want to, if that makes sense. You need to have days, I think, where you don't.
I've probably been more productive during COVID than I.
Oh yeah.
I was always pretty productive. I've got a lot going on, but I feel like maybe it focused me, or I'm just I think I'm kind of not a shut-in. I don't feel lonely because I have a family and. There's always chaos in my house. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it's not like I'm in some sort of tower, like Montaigne or something. I'm 10 feet from chaos at all times. But I feel like maybe COVID made the way that I tend to operate more socially acceptable somehow because it's sort of enforced. Sure. It's kind of enforced it on everybody. Yeah. And then I think once it happened, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to lock in because this is going on and nothing's going to change it anytime soon. It just seems like we're locked into this until we get, crazy pants out of the White House. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been going up. I've been up and down. I'm either also a really good friend during this time or a really bad friend, because it's I feel like because I've had so much extra time and you can't really go out or do things like that, you're spending more time on the phone or you're Zooming, and it's caused me and a lot of friends that I wouldn't normally talk to reconnect, which has been really nice, and in a really deep level, I think, too.
Yeah, I think phone calls made a bit of a comeback during have made a bit of a comeback during the pandemic.
Well, because you get Zoom burnout. There's something different. You're staring at a screen and you're talking, but you're not getting the same pleasure of sitting across from someone. It is nice to see a friend and see their face, but sometimes it's after just a long day, it's sort of nice to just be able to walk around and not look at anything in particular and just talk to someone on the phone. I'm really enjoying talking to you right now. This is nice.
Yeah. Are you walking around?
I am not. I am not. I was nervous if I walked around, my voice would get shaky, this, that. Does my voice sound nervous? I'm never sure how my voice sounds.
No. Is this your nervous voice? Or
I do feel nervous a little bit.
I feel like my voice gets higher when I'm like anxious in some way. And then maybe it gets like extra low when I'm self-conscious. Like I try to be like more, and then hopefully it's somewhere,
it lands somewhere in the middle.
Lands somewhere in the middle between anxiety and like, painful self-awareness.
No, your podcast voice is good. I sometimes joke that I use your podcast to help me fall asleep at night because it's like I get some good information, but it's always very soothing, good level, and so I can go to sleep well too.
So when did you tell me divide it up for me? You live in the upper Midwest from when to when, and then when do you get out to LA for your high school years?
Yeah, around that time, and I went to college out here too, and then I moved to New York to really pursue writing actively. I was a business major at the beginning of college, but it made me really unhappy, and I was really honestly thinking about dropping out just because I didn't really see the point, and that I think my lack of ambition made me feel bad, if that makes sense, because it's like I don't know, I was basically having what I understand now as like millennial burnout, but at the time it just felt like I was just this huge loser that couldn't keep up with all my like beautiful, attractive, smart classmates. But it really was just that I was studying stuff that I didn't have any interest in. Like I just wanted to be a business major because I wanted to make money, have a pair of Jordans that matched every one of my outfits, a pool, shit like that. But yeah, I changed to English, and it really felt like, it sounds so cheesy, like a dorky thing, but it really felt like I found my people, and like I was excited to go to class. That didn't happen often for me. Okay,
so let me, just because I never majored in business,
Good call.
What is it like? What is it like to major in business? What do you do? You have sit around reading case studies, or?
I will say I ditched a lot. I really wasn't very involved. The thing I remember, though, the one fun thing I remember, we had this management class, and we would always do fun exercises. Or he did a funny one once. I particularly remember this one where the professor tapped a beat out, and then he had all of us write down what we thought the beat was. And of course, no one got it. And it was like the Mario song. And he just paralleled it as this fun example of see, even though you think something clear, you should be, it's not always clear to everyone else. I was like, yeah. So there was a lot of cute stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't love my classmates. The material didn't really stick for me. I don't know.
And you said you felt bad about your lack of ambition.
Yeah, it felt like I wanted to want to be ambitious, if that makes sense.
I can totally relate to that. I've talked about this, I think, on the show more than once. It's this complicated relationship that I have with the word ambition and what it stands for, and how. And you're a sports fan, so we can use that paradigm to sort of drill down into it. But I think of whenever they talk about quarterbacks in professional football,
right.
If you watch enough sports media, there's a trope where the sportscasters will lionize the competitive mania of the great quarterback, and they will talk about how this grown man, when he loses a game of Monopoly or ping pong, throws a temper tantrum and whips a paddle and takes a chunk out of the drywall and storms out of the room, and this is considered a positive story meant to underscore the competitive fire. And to me, it sounds like mental illness. I know, it sounds just like, wow, you need to talk to someone. You need to figure out a way to deal with that. Yeah. I think that's why it's I kind of if we're staying on the sports thing, I remember it's I played basketball competitively for so long, and it just made me feel almost ill towards the end of it, because it's it wasn't even that I wanted to win. It wasn't even that I was enjoying winning, but the losing just made me feel terrible, and I just hated that I was putting myself in this position that I felt like I had to go. And the best I would feel if I won was just sort of oh, thank God it's over, and it's weird to feel that way just in your life. You know what made me feel worse? when I like a couple times, I was a soccer player when I was younger.
Oh, yeah.
When we would tie.
God.
And I'd be like, well, what the fuck was the point of that? Like, at least let me know how to feel. Like, I just had I hated being in that, like, I either wanted to feel terrible about myself for losing, or I wanted to feel like that, like, you know, that caffeine high or the sugar high of winning. And
yeah, totally.
When you tie, like, and as a sports fan, I'm the same way. Like, there should be no ties. Like, in competitive soccer, you have a shootout and you decide a winner. You don't have a tie at the end of regulation. I think
fuck that.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what's the so confusing thing about ambition. Like, at least in sports, outside of a tie, there's like very clear ways of how everything's going to go. With like ambition, you know you should be feeling it, but if you don't have a concrete goal, it just kind of turns into this uneasy chest feeling that you're kind of carrying around.
All right, there we have it, folks. That was this week's Flashback. An outtake from episode 659, my conversation with author Jean Kyoung Frazier. Her debut novel is called Pizza Girl, available from Doubleday. It's an excellent novel. Episode 659 first aired on July 22nd, 2020. A reminder that the full episode is available, so if you like what you just heard and you want to go in for the full hour with Jean Kyoung Frazier, you can do that. Just search for episode 659 wherever you get your podcasts. You can find Jean Kyoung Frazier online at gojeanfraziergo.com. I believe that's it. Yeah, gojeanfraziergo.com. She is also, last I checked, on Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to sign up for my free weekly email newsletter over at bradlisti.substack.com. Join the Other People Patreon at patreon.com/otherpplpod. If you have a couple of minutes, please rate and review this show wherever you listen to this show. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is, give the show a rating, write a little review. It helps the show find new listeners. Last but not least, a quick plug for my latest book. It is called Be Brief and Tell Them Everything. It's a novel available in trade paperback, ebook, and audiobook editions. I narrate the audiobook, so if that sounds good, go get my book. It's called Be Brief and Tell Them Everything. All right, so there will be a new episode on Sunday. I've got some great interviews in the pipeline. I will be talking with an author, but it is TBD. I'm still in TBD mode here at the outset of 2024, so you're just going to have to tune in and see on Sunday. I'll be back in like 36 hours with more content, another interview, another conversation. Stay tuned.